What's the juiciest rumor at your school that turned out to be 100% true? New kid comes to high school. He has a funny accent because his parents were missionaries traveling all over the world. He was actually kind of cool. Spoke at least 4 different languages: English, Spanish, Russian, and Mandarin. He was super polite and everyone liked him. Of course, he had haters, mainly the so-called bullies, a concept he never understood. Rumors started that he was well versed in many forms of martial arts. He never denied or admitted to them. One of the bullies decided to find out. He was much bigger than the new kid, and new kid did everything in his power to not escalate the fight. Even took a punch from said bully. Well, guess the rumor was true. Not only did the new kid beat him up, but the bully pooped himself. Most awesome thing I ever saw in high school. Edit. Unfortunately, I was never really close to him, but I had heard from another friend of mine that he ended up moving after high school. Nobody seems to know anything else. I barely remember his first name. It was not an easy one, let alone his last name. So he will live on in memory as that one foreign kid that nobody messed with. Not only did the kid beat him up, but the bully pooped himself. Thank you. This has made it onto my list of favorite things to look at when I'm old. Resource officer was a predator and then murdered his wife after he was fired. He fled and they still haven't found him over 10 years later. He's on Marshall's top 15 most wanted list. His name was Dan Heers and his mother thinks he's dead. The computer tech teacher got caught having relations with a student. He was put on suspension while the investigation was conducted, and he killed himself by running his car into a tree. The science teacher was a predator. Some kid found Viagra in his desk, and he was put in admin leave when they found a used condom in his trash after the search. Then kids came forward. Was not pretty. Science teacher at my boarding school was also a predator. He was caught when he was projecting his computer screen in class and inappropriate material popped up. He was obviously fired, but his wife and adopted son stayed. I can't imagine how hard that must have been for them. I'm 90% sure my former science teacher was also a bit of a predator too. He would get uncomfortably close to girls and try and look down their tops. It was only after I left that school that I heard he got expelled for inappropriate behavior. Later I heard he had moved to some Asian country to teach there. Who knows what he's up to over there. 2 teachers that were married to each other were sleeping with students. The husband was the first to do it and the wife found out and slept with some of her students as revenge. Also, the resource officer was sleeping with some of the 18-year-old seniors. All got confirmed when they were fired for it. Well, the teachers got fired. The officer got moved to bicycle patrol. My school had a similar incident. Wife was fired for sleeping with a student. They got divorced and then the husband was fired a few years later for the same thing. The students were 18, so no one went to jail. Ah, yes. Find out your husband's cheating on you? Don't divorce him. Nah. Start cheating too, with people that will get you fired and possibly jailed. This one girl would make those colorful friendship bracelets made out of needlepoint floss for every guy she gave a BJ to. There were lots of bracelets. Is that so she keeps track of repeats? Rumor had it that a teacher was sleeping with some of his students that wanted to get higher grades. No one believed it to be true because he was married and just had his 3rd baby. 100% true, and all the students were proud of it. He's still in jail 5 years later. This is one thing I've never understood about the American education system. Why do you have your teachers set your exams and give you your grades? Surely it defeats the point of having an examination in the first place and risks students/teachers blackmailing each other as seen here. That there's an underground bunker from the Cold War era below the school. Not only is it there, but it turns out you can access it from the PE changing room through a secret trap door. Edit, it's in Krakow, Poland because so many of you were curious. But looks like there's actually lots of schools that have one. Edit 2. Also, it is confirmed to be a bunker, but it was built before the school existed and was most likely emptied by previous owners of the building. My school had one of those as well. The hatch was hidden in the cafeteria kitchen. Its existence was confirmed when our recent American history teacher went down and took pictures for our Cold War unit. He said that most of the tunnel had been filled in with concrete, but there was still substantial walking area. My school had one of these. Though it wasn't hidden under a trap door, there was a door to it in the theater. The door led down to the pit under the stage, and the back of that led to the area that could serve as a bunker. The bunker actually led to a system of tunnels that then connected it to the middle school that was about 3/4 of a mile away. Reminds me of my high school. It used to have a coal-burning boiler and there was a massive coal room that extended out underneath the marching band's practice fields. Some stoners I knew would sneak in there to get high and they bumped into the art teacher in there. The art teacher had the same idea. Why is it always the art teachers? In middle school, a rumor floated around pretty much most of the school that the principal had a consistent record of sexual assault. And what do you know, he got arrested for sexual assault when I was a freshman in high school. It was all over the news and everything. The government/politics teacher at my school quietly retired because it was sort of an open secret that the girls could get a better grade in his class by wearing low-cut shirts. I don't know if he ever did anything though. A younger male teacher, upper 20s, newlywed, was having sex in his classroom during lunch with an older female teacher, married in her mid-40s. A student caught them and filmed it and pretty much blackmailed them into turning themselves in. Well, at least he was sleeping with a teacher and not a student. Well, that's a plot twist I could get behind. A student used blackmail to get the offenders to do the right thing for once. At one of the schools in my country, someone caught the principal and some other teacher having sex. They dragged him all over social media and they ended up ruining his life. The guy killed himself. We had a Spanish teacher who would keep giving random financial/business advice during classes. One day, he tabbed over to his stock trading homepage and accidentally revealed that he was a millionaire. Rumors about his past started circulating. Around graduation, some students found old newspaper articles confirming that he was a former meth dealer who had spent time in jail. Was a seriously cool guy, actually. That would be a good Breaking Bad spinoff. We had a physics teacher who was rumored to be a millionaire as well. It was said that he had a hand in the development of MRI machines in his younger years. I know he himself had stories about working in the lab of an MRI factory, so I'm pretty sure it checks out, even if he never said how much money he had. Either way, the rumors were that he had enough to retire anytime he wanted, so it was probably a lot. How the heck did a former meth dealer get teacher certification? I don't know if I buy this one. If he hadn't been caught, it would make sense, and maybe he gets a job if he has a drug possession prior. But having distribution on your record and then getting a post-prison teaching gig doesn't add up. Two sports teachers were having an affair with each other, even though one of their spouses was already a sports teacher in the same school using the same dinky office. Rumor was confirmed when the two dudes had a fist fight in the basketball court. I feel like every PE teacher I ever had was plowing another member of staff. Edit, I should mention I was homeschooled. That the school district security guard would let you get away with anything if you gave him some coke. He later got caught and fired for it. If anyone else went there, it was at Desert View High School in Tuscan. Edit, I was talking about cocaine, not the soda, for those who didn't realize that. And on a serious note, it's all about the Dr. Pepper. The wood tech teacher was married to the French teacher and they had a child. The PE teacher slept with the French teacher, and the wood tech teacher went into the PE department and threatened to beat the crap out of the PE teacher with a cricket bat. I believe this was during a normal school day, but it was before my year started there. A second PE teacher got involved and stopped it, so everyone kept their jobs. Later on, the wood tech teacher married the geography teacher and they had 2 kids, whilst a third PE teacher cheated on her husband with the second PE teacher, and every Wednesday, an hour before lunch, I would see PE teachers 2 and 3 through the window of my science classroom. They would get in a car and leave together. Sometimes I would see them come back, and sometimes I wouldn't. I jokingly pointed it out to people before anyone else caught on, and later they became a couple that was known to students. Final count, 6 teachers, 3 pregnancies, 2 affairs, and 1 angry husband with a cricket bat. Teacher from my high school. Girls were creeped out by him and constantly reported him for making them uncomfortable. He was quite obese, belly hung to his knees, so the school and other students wrongly assumed these girls were being rude. 6 years later, he's in jail for getting caught with inappropriate material on his computer, alongside upskirt photos of girls from my school. My science teacher got caught with inappropriate material on his computer too. Genuinely though, predator teachers are probably more common than we think. Oh god, this is why people need to believe teenagers when they report any sort of sexual misconduct. Something similar happened at my high school in South Texas. Pretty much the same story, but the teacher was an older man. I never had him, but some friends of mine always said he made them feel uncomfortable. Was outed as a predator a few years later when they found inappropriate material on his computer. That there was a girl in the boys' bathroom giving BJs for $10. There really was, and she got expelled. $10? That's way too cheap considering the risk. Girl in my class did this only for free. Came back to class after lunch bragging about how there was a literal line of guys and she'd blown 12. A girl blew the whole basketball team after a game. Don't know the exact details, I just know the girl left and 3 kids got expelled. I'm not naming the high school for privacy reasons. The reason they got expelled was because it was a Catholic school and they did it in the locker room. My 6th grade math teacher was super creepy. He would assign seats randomly, but always place the girls in the front of the classroom. Did the whole lingering stare thing and was always trying to get people to hang out with him during lunch. I never did, but he was married and has a baby, so no one really suspected anything of him other than being creepy. Fast forward about 7 years, the teacher ended up being a predator. He had an ongoing relationship with a girl that began when she was 13. Based on what I could see from the various news articles, she was either in my year or the year before me. The police came to arrest him in the middle of his class, cuffed him in front of his students, and then had to walk him throughout campus in cuffs to get to their car. I don't feel bad for him at all, but I can't imagine how his wife and son must feel. The same exact thing happened at my school, except he was an art teacher. What is wrong with the world? Probably not the juiciest thing, but the one I remember because of how I found out. A few of our high school library walls were weird, sort of a lowercase b shape. So there was this empty space behind the bookshelves up against the walls. Tunnels, basically. Word was students were messing around in there. I worked in the library, had to move the shelves, clean the tunnels, found used condoms. It was an all-boys school at the time, if that matters. Mind, the condoms weren't the worst thing really. The leftover food debris in there was worse. Stuff like chicken bones. Edit. A couple years later, I was talking with an ex-schoolmate. Another guy from our graduating class comes in. I hate that guy, my friend says. He's gay. Dude, you're gay. There's gay, and then there's so gay other gay people think you're too gay. Turns out that gent had been one of the entrepreneurial fellows selling services for a few dollars ago. I wasn't shocked since I already had some idea, but I was surprised that the going rate had been so cheap. You know you've hit rock bottom when you'll give a blowy for a piece of fried chicken. Either that or that's some awfully good chicken. There was a rumor that our female English teacher was sleeping with the starting QB and that her youngest child was not her husband's but the QB's. She was caught sleeping with a different one of her students years later, and it is now known that she has slept with a number of former students, including the QB. Now people really think her youngest kid isn't her husband's. When I was in middle school, the big joke rumor was that 2 teachers were banging. Years later, everyone finds out that not only were they having an affair outside of their respective marriages, but that the male teacher was cheating on both women with a man. The female teacher moved away and ended her own life. The entire situation was unbelievably messy. I'm always amazed at people who have the energy and time to cheat. Like, how did he stay organized enough to fit in a wife, a mistress, and a gay lover while working full-time? It just sounds exhausting. The physics teacher was sexting and sleeping with one of his students. Not sure if she was 18 or not at the time. Although, honestly, no one was surprised. He was a little too friendly toward the girls and changed his pants in the back of the classroom once. He ended up leaving for personal reasons over Thanksgiving break, but of course it got out. Sadly, his wife was in her 3rd trimester, which probably didn't make it any easier for her to find out her husband was sleeping with a high school student. I feel a disproportionate number of the predator teacher stories involve a pregnant wife or just born child. That within the first 2 weeks of school starting and everyone meeting each other, one of the girls had a threesome with 2 guys who didn't really get along. So she convinced them to make love, not war. We had a study hall teacher who was a huge hard ass with a handlebar mustache who was retired Navy. Turned out he was a hardcore gay/BDSM porn star in the early 2000s. He got fired even though it was long before his time teaching. I ended up writing a letter to the administration, county, and their attorneys, but he stayed fired. I guess it would be hard to command respect from students when Googling his porn name immediately brought up a pic of his balls bound in leather. Our math teacher in high school had a student teacher she was helping train to take over for her when she went on maternity leave. The student teacher was maybe 20 or 21 and a fairly attractive young woman, so naturally all the guys in the class had a crush on her. One guy in particular was a super senior, around 18 to 19. He flirted with her non-stop and she would act super embarrassed and blush and in a non-committal way tell him to knock it off. I'm sure you see where this is going. Well, towards the end of the semester, he bragged about going out on a date with her and how they went to the movies, then he went back to her place and they had sex. We all thought he was full of it, but the rumor got around the school and of course the teachers and faculty found out. Then one day she's just gone, and we had substitute teachers for the rest of the semester. We all knew what happened. Looking back, it's kind of a shame that she probably wrecked her future teaching career because of him. Yeah, teachers shouldn't start that young with people they were allowed to bang a few weeks ago. A girl got caught giving her boyfriend a blowjob in one of the stairwells of my school. The government teacher, one of the most ultra-religious and pure-hearted individuals on earth, was the one who caught them. Ended up in a science class with the girl. She did not care at all that she got caught and took her legend status like a champ. Still makes me laugh over a decade later. Similar thing happened at my school, but the guy got put on the predators list even though they were both 14 and the girl initiated it. She wasn't punished. Georgia schools suck. There was this couple I knew in high school who did stuff like this. Our school was small and we just had tables, mesh tables, important, out on a black top that served as an all-purpose courtyard and lunch area. Since the girl wore skirts, they would often mess around under the table during lunch. Teacher walked by and somehow didn't notice. She even blew him a few times in full view of everyone, thinking she was being slick. Also, there was this time I had to deliver something to the chem room and this girl, different girl, was giving a hand job to 2 guys at once during class. Their seat was in the back, but in line of sight of the teacher's desk. Don't know how they never got caught. Very attractive, married with kids PE teacher was screwing very attractive, married with kid English teacher. We all thought they were just very flirty people, but nope, full-on affair going on. I call bull. I've never seen a remotely attractive PE teacher. The music teacher in my high school was rumored to have been fired for sending explicit photos to a female student. There had been subs taking his place for nearly a month. The principal said he was too ill to come into work, and eventually another rumor that he had cancer started spreading around. He had been bald longer than anyone could remember. If you asked any of the school's staff what was going on, they would just say, "He's just sick right now, we don't know when he'll be returning." One day in my physics class, everyone in the class pestered the teacher for the whole period until he finally gave in. Some people were still trying to argue the cancer story. One student asked the physics teacher, "Did he send photos to that girl?" And he finally said, "The thing that you think happened, it happened." The student said, "So he did?" And the teacher simply nodded his head yes. A month or so later, the music teacher showed up in school. Everyone was running up to him in the hallway asking what happened. He dodged every question, and the last thing I heard him say was, "I'm just here to get some things." He didn't teach his class that day, and I never saw him again.